Dan the Wheelman here. With me today is this. This is the all-new 2022 Subaru BRZ. There have been all sorts of changes for 2022, from the interior accoutrements to the powertrain to the chassis, to make this, according to the manufacturer, a clear-cut improvement over the previous model. So we're going to take a drive today to see if it can really walk that walk. So they've made all sorts of changes to the interior of the BRZ for 2022. Chief among those can be felt as soon as you step in. They've mounted these seats lower down, which is great because it gives me more headroom and it lowers the center of gravity as well. They've done a few other things to lower the center of gravity in this vehicle, which we'll get to in a minute. Still though, it's a sport seat, high bolsters, not so high though they're squeezing my ribs, which I'm a fan of, but a very nice seating position overall. Also new, you've got Starlink now with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto as standard. And they've given us an actual closed storage area here. It used to be this kind of open area that was kind of a free-for-all. Now it's got a door on top of it with two cup holders inside, as well as the cup holder here. It's a better solution than previous, but it's still not perfect. I mean, when it comes to interior storage, there isn't anything down here, for example. This is quite small. There's only so much room. This is a small vehicle you can have for interior storage. What Mazda has done with the the MX-5 RF, I keep thinking RX because we'd love to see a new one of those, wouldn't we? Anyway, with their cup holders, for example, you can either have one mounted down here by the passenger's leg or in between the seat backs here, or you can have two mounted in between the seat backs here. It's still not perfect, but I think it's a little bit better than what I have here. With this one here, I often find myself opening the storage lid by just trying to rest my arm on it because there is a release on top, which I find a little bit ergonomically annoying. Never a problem in the MX-5. Although, of course, you can't be putting a cup holder between the seat backs in this one because there are seats back there, unlike in the MX-5, although they are quite small. And while I know some colleagues who have put their child seat back there, they do have child seat anchors in the back seat. I wouldn't do that to my poor kid. I'm too tall. I would not give them very much room to breathe. Anyway, so, and also, I've also got Subaru EyeSight here, which of course gives me kind of forward pedestrian detection, forward collision warning, all that stuff. Digital gauge cluster. It looks like I have a manual transmission, but this is actually the auto with paddle shifters, of course. And of course, you can get a stick shift if you want as well. Sport mode, snow mode, track mode, which is pretty cool. Climate control system is adjustable via these big dials here. There's also some kind of cool looking toggle switches down here for your climate control, which I rather like. But overall, it's a very ensconcing cockpit, but one that gives you just that much more space thanks to those low mounted seats. And for a big guy like me, well, that's great. So, in addition to lowering the seating position to lower the center of gravity, they've also given us aluminum hood, aluminum fenders, and crucially an aluminum roof as well, which all serves to lower the center of gravity altogether, which is pretty impressive to be able to do considering how low and squat this vehicle always has been. And as if that wasn't enough to improve handling, they've also changed the suspension tuning. I believe this is a firmer setup overall than the 8.6 Twin is, or than its 8.6 Twin is. And they've given us Michelin Pilot Sport 4 tires as standard. Used to be you had to upgrade to the TS model in order to get that. Now it's standard. You don't have to deal with that, Prius spec Michelin primacy rubber anymore. So proper sporty rubber, sporty suspension. They've also changed the steering ratio, so there's less turns lock to lock, so it's more direct steering, and as well. So they've really gone to quite far lengths to really stretch the performance out of the BRZ this time around in the handling department. But that's not all. Don't get excited. No, they have not yet added a turbocharger to this, although I'd love them to do that. Many of us would. They haven't done that. They haven't added all-wheel drive. It's still rear-wheel drive and will always be rear-wheel drive according to Subaru. The Subaru WRX comes with an all-wheel drive system. That they say all-wheel drive is better suited for that vehicle, which is a little more suited to families than this is. This is more about, you know, young professionals, you know, singles or couples to drive. So you don't need all-wheel drive here. Rear-wheel drive is fine, but they've increased engine size from 2 liters to 2.4 liters, and that's given us more power. 228 horsepower and 184 pound-feet of torque. That's up from 205 horsepower and 156 on the old model. That is quite a big change in a vehicle that only weighs, I don't know, something like 1,200 kilograms or something like that. Not a lot. I'll put the exact curb weight on there on the screen afterwards, but that's a big difference, those power figures. And with the added suspension tuning and all that kind of stuff, this should be a lot of fun once we get it to the open road. But while we're here in town, I still can comment on how much more solid this feels than it used to be. Not only is the center of gravity lower, there's more power, it's 60% stiffer. 60% stiffer, according to Subaru, than it used to be. That is really impressive as well. What that does is it gives you better handling through the curves, to be sure, but it also makes for a better ride in town, a more solid feeling ride, a more luxurious feeling ride. And with this steering rack, which in town I can tell is very direct and very firm feeling, they've really hit the mark when it comes to the NVH, noise, vibration, harshness of this vehicle. Now you've got a 4-cylinder boxer engine up there, jointly developed by Subaru and Toyota. Still says it right there on the engine cover, Toyota, Subaru. You know, so that's a warbly. That flat 4 is not the smoothest engine. It's quite warbly and so on. That's what people who put like, that's what flat 4 fans or flat 6s, if we're talking about Porsches, like. But so it's hard to cut down the noise down, but they've done a really good job to insulate this vehicle otherwise. And there's lots of nice soft touch materials here. Got some nice Alcantara suede up here, as well as on the gauge hood. Not expected to see in kind of an entry-level sports car like this. Plus, with that added space, it's a much more luxurious feeling vehicle than it used to be. And I've driven the old BRZ and the old 8.6. In fact, I've driven the old 8.6 and the Scion FRS, and it always did feel a little bit like a wet noodle, a little bit squishy when it shouldn't be, when the MX-5 always felt so solid. Now, this has really kicked it up a few notches when it comes to how chassis fidelity, how confident I am in this chassis has really gone up over the previous model of this vehicle. Now, of course, this is only available as a 2-door hardtop. There's no convertible top at all on this, so you never have to worry about losing any chassis fidelity that way. This is just, oh, there goes my eyesight telling me I'm too close to the car ahead of me. Okay. Anyway, but this is always going to be a coupe, but it doesn't mean they haven't been able to improve the stiffness further still, and they have done that for 2022. But overall, it's much more squatter looking because it does sit 4 millimeters lower than it did previous. You've got the new headlight design, which I like, very distinctive. You see a little bit of Nissan 400Z in there, but otherwise it's really nice. You have just a more upscale look overall, and of course, you're never gonna be able to discuss the BRZ without discussing its Toyota 8.6 twin. Out front, this is a little more aggressive looking, actually, the Toyota is, the lower splitter mainly, and but overall, much classier looking. I really like the wheels I have on this. Those are some really nice kind of smoked dark wheels. They look really good. Even in this kind of ho-hum silver colorway I've got here, I'd much prefer like a blue or a red. Still looks very nice and classy. I feel like I say this every review I do, but it's not perfect in here. The turn indicator, for example, is not, it's reciprocating. So it bounces back into spot when you activate it. And so sometimes in order to turn off your indicator, you gotta do it yourself. It doesn't do it automatically as often as it should. Find that kind of annoying. Let's see how well that indicator works. Let's see, lane change, wheel back to center. Nope, have to turn it off myself. Lane change the other way. Nope, turn it off myself. Now, what about a proper left turn? Let's find out. Indicator on. Oh, there we go. Turned itself off that time. It's so hit and miss as we go for another lane change here. which probably is going to result in me having to turn the indicator off myself. Yep, sure enough, there you go. It's just so hit and miss. Eyesight is good. It offers tons of safety features. The only thing is, in order to play with any of it, deactivate them or activate them or whatever, you have to go through the menu here on this 7-inch display. There's no hard buttons for any of that stuff. No hard buttons for your lane departure system. No hard buttons for your your blind spot system, any of that kind of stuff. It's all done through here. Now, once you get to the menu that is required to do all that, it's fairly easy to navigate, except for you can't navigate most of it while you're driving. If you had hard buttons, that wouldn't be a problem, but you can turn the lane departure warning on and off while you're driving, so I guess that's good. But you can't do it while you're driving, and to have to fiddle around with a display to do all that stuff, I find that to be just a little bit annoying. Otherwise, though, the controls in here are all well spaced out. It's pretty ergonomic. It looks nice. All the buttons and knobs have a really nice feel to them, which I'm a fan of. Again, lends to that air of quality that we're getting from the BRZ this time around. And you can tell it's interior, though, that's been designed for drivers. Keep it pretty basic, pretty Spartan, focus on the road ahead. All right, now we're hitting the highway. Sport mode active. See what all that new power is all about. Yes, nice jump off the line there. You can hear that engine revving. Oh, that sounds good. You like that noise. Nice pickup. No turbocharging means quick power delivery. No turbo lag of any kind. Gets a little choppy on shifts through the higher gears. That's the other thing I want to mention is, while it's nice we've got the paddle shifter here, I do wish shift speed was a bit quicker. It's not a dual clutch system or anything like that, standard automatic, and I find that the shifting to be just a little on the sluggish side for a sports car like this. Then, as we start to wind it through some bends here, you really see just how, look at the steering, so direct, immediate response in that front end. Hardly have to turn the wheel at all because they have, again, reduced the steering, they've changed the steering ratio. So very nice, just stickiness through there, very little body roll, and such immediate steering, just right away it reacts to what you ask it to do. That is really good, and that solidity that you felt in the city, or that I felt in the city, of the steering rack is kind of amplified here, so you really get that weightiness that you want from a sports car. It's a power steering rack that almost feels hydraulically assisted. Isn't the EPAS system, but still it just feels very true. There's some nice feel through the wheel, really nice through the bends, and of course you've got all that power to get you out of those bends quicker as well. They've really done a number on the BRZ for 2022, from that luxurious feeling in city to the more power it has to that great handling on faster roads. It really is kind of a trifecta of improvements that really bring this up a notch in the sports car world too. They've really taken it seriously, and I guess the bottom line is that for years I've driven both the MX-5 and variations of this vehicle. I've driven them back to back, and it's always been a pretty clear-cut choice. I've wanted that MX-5. This one hasn't really, I've never been kind of an 8.6, I guess, fanboy, if you want to call it that, fan of Initial D and all that. I know this isn't the 8.6, but you get the idea. It's a similar vehicle. I've never been that way, but I've really started to find myself this time around testing this. I really have to consider this against the MX-5 RF. I really would. It was always a clear-cut win for the RF for me. Always felt more pure, felt lighter, liked the looks, but now they've addressed a lot of that with this new gen of this vehicle, and that is, to me, the biggest compliment I can level at it, is that I would really have to think twice. If I've got my 30+ grand in my hand, I'm walking in, I want to get a sports car, it's no longer such a cut and dry decision for me. It really isn't. You'd have to really consider this. There's a little more room inside than there's the MX-5. It's a little more high quality feeling in here than is in that car. Yeah, I'd really have. Now, of course, the MX-5 Roadster is a bit of a different question than the RF. The RF still is a convertible. It's got that full, retractable folding hardtop. Feels very coupe-like when it's all kind of sewn together. So that makes it a more direct competitor for this. The MX-5 Roadster with the soft top that you can flip up by just reaching over your shoulder is still kind of almost in a league of its own even now. But it's still a rear-wheel drive sports car, costing around 30 plus grand, which this is now too. And it'd be a much tougher choice to me than it's ever been before. As we come to another turn here, yes, I love this. It's a much tougher choice for me, these two vehicles, than it ever has been before. Probably the best compliment I can level at the BRZ. Thank you for watching this short review of the 2022 Subaru BRZ. Hope you enjoyed it. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please do. If not, no hard feelings, of course. You can follow me on Twitter at DanTheWheelman and on Instagram at DanTheWheelman as well. So thanks again for tuning in, and until next time, sayonara, folks.